I've been working with language learning and technology for a very long time now, probably about 22 years. And I put together this presentation because I think we're at a moment where it's important for us as education technologists and teachers and language teachers to think about how we can use technology to really help with equity, access, and outcomes. So I have a quick introduction, which is what I'm doing right now. I want to talk about where we're finding ourselves at the end of 2023, how we can all think about leveraging technology for change at scale, what technology can do to disrupt education, and what we're going to see in the future. So it's a super big picture, and then we're going to drill in when we get to Denise's talk after mine, which is going to get a lot more specific with a particular use case for specific technology. So everyone's used to that picture that you see right there. And what happened in March of 2020 was that technology solved a problem. And if you've been working in ed tech before 2020, you knew that technology could solve problems, but you probably had a lot of colleagues who were sort of like, but wait, you can't do that with technology. But wait, language learners can't use technology. And what we saw is that with technology, we could have weddings, we could have telehealth appointments, we could do everything that we did beforehand, we could do with technology. That's actually a picture of two of my friends who got married during the pandemic. And as a result of this, the world is getting even smaller, and online learning and teaching have exploded because virtual experiences have become commonplace. So when we think about how to use education technology, we need to think about it in a different way. The second thing that's happening at the end of 2023 is that we have an unprecedented need for communication and collaboration. World migration is in a place that it has never been before. I think I have some stats here. Right now, 1% of the world is a barely livable hot zone, but by 2070, that number could go up to 19%. So due to conflict, due to climate change, due to changing political landscape, we are having migration like we've never seen before. And the borders between where you live and where you work have become fungible. We have more than 100 million displaced people worldwide right now, and only 6% of them have access to higher education, which means that education technologists can solve a problem. And the third thing that's happening as we round out the end of 2023 is that we have the kind of technology right now that practitioners have been talking about for years. And Rachel's smiling because she's been part of lots of work and lots of conversations on how we can leverage large language models to improve access and improve outcomes and improve learning possibilities around the world. So up until this point, we never had computers that could actually sound like people. And the difference between large language models and what we've had before is, for the first time, even if what they're saying isn't exactly true, our computers can sound like real humans. And this is causing a lot of waves in the field. New York City bans ChatGPT on school devices. The ChatGPT king isn't worried, but he knows you might be. And oh wait, New York City reverses the ChatGPT ban. So people are running around chasing their tails, wondering what to do with all of the technology that we have. What used to be impossible is now possible. So we are finding ourselves in a completely new place, but there remains a massive disconnect between research and practice. And so when we want to leverage technology for change at scale, we want to remember that we have decades of research on how to use technology for learning. My particular background is in online language learning, but the research on distance learning in general goes back 70 years. And we know that language learning specifically is the key to communication, collaboration. We finally have generative artificial intelligence that can mimic human-like production. However, the pandemic online teaching got us off to a rocky start. So at the same time, we have these three big things. We have global migration, we have climate change, we have technology that let us do everything online during Zoom. That is almost a blessing and a curse. And I think it's really important for all of us as education technologists to talk about what happened. Because everything went online, We started with a technology first approach. We often had poor design. We had outdated instructional paradigms that everybody was using when they were doing emergency online teaching. And that's resulted in a lot of people right now who are sort of saying, but I didn't like online teaching. It didn't work. I don't want to do it anymore. I want everyone to go back to the classroom because I tried it and Zoom school, that does not work. And it's because they didn't do it right, because it was an emergency. So we did all the mistakes we've all seen made over the last 30 years, like technology for the sake of technology, toddlers sitting in a room all writing the same thing on a tablet. Like, that's a terrible idea. Like, just because you have technology doesn't mean that you should use it. You need a strategy. You need a design. So like, these pictures here are all mistakes that I personally made over the last 20 years of teaching with technology. I one time had an entire Spanish class I taught online where I told all my students to just Yahoo Messenger me anytime they felt like practicing, thinking that would be a good way for them to get authentic chat practice. And I had 30 students like in my Yahoo Messenger all day long while I was trying to talk to them in Spanish. Like, we know a lot more about how to structure online experiences so they work. And we need to remember to share all of that with the people that we're working with who are using technology, because this, like, putting everyone into this is a wonderful experience and we're all going to get to collaborate and answer questions later. But this method of lecturing at adults to learn over technology is horrible and we should not do it. And this is a lot of what happened during the pandemic. So we can still change the narrative that technology instruction is bad, but we can't use emergency online teaching as a blueprint of what to do. And we need to leverage the research that exists on what works, because we already know a lot about how to leverage technology to solve problems. And if we do, we can use it to improve access, equity, and inclusion at scale. So what does that mean? It means, as an overarching principle, remember to use software for what technology can do best so people can do what humans do best. We're not trying to replace humans. We're not trying to replace teachers. We're trying to make their jobs easier. We're trying to extend their reach. We're trying to make classes more flexible and easier for learners to attend. We're trying to give learners access to real experiences. We want to think beyond the constraints of face-to-face classes and use technology to direct learners' attention, individualize instruction, engage in telecollaboration, facilitate virtual exchanges, engage in authentic experiences. Like, these are all additive things that technology can bring to the learning experience that go beyond thinking about how do I get all my 30 learners into a Zoom classroom. And it can remove barriers. So we have logistical issues of space and time. We can use video and audio recording for feedback and reflection and deeper processing. When you think about language learning, one of the big constraints on language learning are individuals' working memory capacities. You can only hold so much information in mind as you're going to do something complex, like use your new language, which is why the literature on feedback in language learning is replete with examples of how you can't overload your learners. But you can use technology to help scaffold that so that you can give them feedback. You can have them record themselves doing things, recording themselves having authentic exchanges, or recording themselves having mock dialogues. And then you can give them feedback on the recording when they have time to process the feedback that you're giving them. The data is super important when we're thinking about the benefits technology can bring to learning experiences. It lets you monitor learner progress and performance so you can give them feedback that makes sense. It can help you direct your learners. You can teach your learners how to leverage data about their performance so they can use that, because learner agency is super important. Like, adult learners need to be part of their learning process to improve outcomes, and helping them understand and reflect on the data that you have about their learning is helpful, and it lets you push them strategically. Geography is no longer a barrier. We pointed that out up front, but language and technical skills are linked with opportunity. So these are just 3 examples of 3 different organizations that offer opportunity, but the people to whom they offer opportunity must have both language skills and technical skills. Andela will connect coding opportunities to learners scattered all over the world, but they need to be able to speak English, and they also need the technical skills to participate in the training. Genie connects interpreters to people who need interpretation from all over the world in a moment via cell phone, but they need the tech skills to be able to offer the interpretation, and they need the language skills. And Conversations Unbound connects people displaced by conflict, refugees who are migrants, with opportunities to teach language. But again, they need the technical skills and the language skills to be able to do so. So while technology is opening up barriers, we can't let it create more barriers because of this issue of equity, which is why we need to look at all of the work we do with this equity lens. Workforce-focused language training is the bridge to the future of work. So I have a little data in here about, I like this data because it's looking at a technology-mediated platform, but it's also looking at human intervention on top. And so when we work with employers who use our platform and they offer coaching, we get 87% of the learners to engage, compared to 61% when they don't have coaching. And coaches are people who are using data to help learners use technology. Learners with coaching complete an average of 18 hours working on our platform, compared to 7 hours of learners without coaching. And over a 4-month license period, 31% of the learners with coaching are very highly engaged, compared to 9% of the ones who don't have coaching. So this blend between tech and human is super important to keep at the forefront of the work and the thinking that you're doing around how to leverage technology. Because technology is going to continue to change the way we work and learn. Like, this is a question I asked ChatGPT. Are there any limitations to what generative AI can do to support language teachers? And ChatGPT said, yes, there are certain limitations to what generative AI can do to support language teachers. Some of these limitations include lack of contextual understanding, limited adaptability, insufficient understanding of students' needs, ethical considerations. And then ChatGPT goes on to like sell me on it's still good. And it is, but those are all things that humans bring to the teaching experience, that humans bring to the equation. So we want to iterate on the definition of blended learning to let machines do what they do best, so people can do what they do best. Like, stop the conflict between human and machine, because the best combination feels like magic to your learners. And we're going to develop more device-specific instruction. Like, why do we do the same thing on every device? You should have a different program that you do on your headphones than you do on your mobile phone, than you do on a desktop, than you do on a tablet, because you're in different places when you use those technologies. And so the more we can do to leverage like what the individual piece of tech does best, the better able we're going to be to insert ourselves and insert learning into the lives of our learners. Just-in-time insights for instructors is something that I see more and more teachers wanting to leverage. Like, imagine if instead of just seeing like a roster with red X's next to students who needed help, your program could tell you 4 learners got stuck on this lesson called using Excel to determine measures of central tendency, or there are 3 questions in your online classroom about the difference between LinkedIn and Indeed.com, or 13 out of 14 learners uploaded video walkthroughs of their portfolios. Contact Sasha here to see what happened to hers. Like, this is what we need our learning management systems to do. They need to be more helpful. Because if we can build flexible data-driven models, then we can offer credit for prior learning. We can give credit for lived experience. We can have flexible assessment models. We can have stackable credentials. Because improving and automating personalization is going to help us rapidly deliver learning outcomes at scale.